Hello, this is Fanfiction Spot coming with another part of What If Naruto Had a Gaming System or Solo Leveling. Please like and subscribe, and without any delay let's get started. Chapter 17, Revelation of Truth. The next day, Naruto's apartment. How the heck did I get back here? Naruto muttered aloud as he started looking around. He was lying on his bed with his usual green sleeping cap on his head and pajamas on. It was an honest question. The last thing he remembered from yesterday was beating that beefed-up fox squirrel and getting that weird-ass message. Naruto had no recall of ever leaving TG-13, let alone getting home, eating, bathing, getting changed and going to bed. Yet it was plainly obvious that he had done all of the above. He grimaced as he remembered the last thing he could recall, being told he had the goddamn nine-tailed fox sealed up inside him by his little gamer system. Had he wandered back in such a daze that he couldn't even remember doing it? It certainly seemed so. As he went about his morning routine, Naruto considered what to do. He had the QB inside him. That explained why people, the older generation at least, seemed to hate him so much for no reason, even before he started his pranks. Well, the vast majority had anyway. He was man enough to admit that his pranks probably hadn't helped any in that department. That, of course, led the young blonde to wondering just who he should be questioning about this, since it was plainly obvious he needed more information if he ever wanted any peace of mind. His first instinct was Iruka-sensei, but he was only a Chunin. There were probably details about it, details Naruto had to know, that the academy teacher wasn't aware of. Iruka was near the top of a very small list of people that Naruto trusted, while also being likely to know about his status as the, what had that message called it? Ah yes, Jinchuriki, of the QB. The sad thing was, there were only about a dozen people that satisfied both categories, and sadly, only Iruka and one other were trusted enough that Naruto would accept their words at face value. Well, I guess it's about time I go and talk to Gigi again. He mused aloud. This was not going to be a pleasant conversation, Naruto was already sure of it. Still, he needed to know why. Why did he have the QB sealed within him? The only person who could have done it was the legendary Yondaime Hokage, but why didn't history, at least the history books he had read in class, say anything about the fox being sealed? Question after question, and a very large whack of hurt betrayal, started to run through his mind before Naruto rather firmly tamped down on them, Gamer's mind activating and helping him do just that before his emotions started to run rampant. Gigi was the Hokage, first and foremost. He had to have reasons for what he did, and Naruto sincerely hoped that the old man, who had acted as something like a surrogate grandfather for as far back as he could remember, would be willing to discuss them with him. Quest alert. Grab the fox by its tails. You have discovered that you carry the great nine-tailed fox within you, sealed there by the Yondaime Hokage, in all likelihood at the cost of his life on your birthday. The best person to ask is your surrogate grandfather, the Hokage. Confront him and get the truth. Quest rewards, plus 2,500 EXP, plus 5,000 Ryo, special status changes, plus reputation with Sarutobi Hiruzen. Quest failure, more quest alerts until you do this. Accept. YN. Another quest with no refusal allowed. Naruto had to shake his head as he hit the Y button to make it go away. He could almost swear there was someone pulling this crap for shits and giggles. If there was, the blonde orphan swore he'd find them eventually before giving them a sincere and thorough beating and maybe treat them to a first-hand demonstration of all the jutsu he'd been collecting. As the target dummy. Later. Hokage's office, Hokage Tower. A long life as an active-duty shinobi had allowed Sarutobi Hiruzen to develop a number of talents, one of which was a finely tuned sense for when trouble was afoot. It had served him well, both as an active shinobi and as a desk-bound Hokage, and had saved his life several times before, so he'd learned to trust it wholeheartedly. Thus, since that same sense had been ringing constantly since he'd woken up this morning, he was naturally more than a little tense. Then his surrogate grandson walked through the door to his office, his face seemingly carved out of stone into a severe expression, and those same internal alarms started blaring at a condition red level. The last time they'd done that was when he last forgot his and Biwako's anniversary. He'd been on the couch for a month for that. Before he could say anything, Naruto closed the door firmly behind him and began forming signs with his hands. Hiruzen instantly recognized the Konoha field sign language, though he was half surprised the boy already had it down so clearly. Top secret information. Secure room. The internal alarms raised another level, going to code black. Naruto had never been one to hold anything back when it came to speaking with him about anything. For him to go this far, what could it be he wanted to talk about? Deciding that this required looking into, the Hokage simply gave the boy a single nod before tapping a small panel on the side of his desk. This caused the hidden latch to switch and the panel to flip, revealing a black square seemingly burned into the wood. Channeling chakra into the square, which was actually a disguised sealing array, he felt, rather than saw, the network of intricate and powerful seals spring to life around the room. The security system had originally been emplaced by the Nidaime Hokage at his brother's request, with no small help from Lady Mito. Jiraiya and the Yondaime had both worked to update and streamline the various arrays to keep up with any new developments in the sealing arts as well as a form of training for themselves. He remembered that Minato had made planning and designing a complete overhaul of the system a pet project after he became the Hokage. "The room is now secure, Naruto-kun," he said in concern as he eyed his favorite orphan worriedly. "What is the matter?" "Gigi, I was in training ground 13 yesterday, trying to cull the first sub-area down to a reasonable number." Naruto started hesitantly. At Sarutobi's encouraging nod, he continued. "I just killed my last mutated squirrel when this super mutant leapt out of the woodwork and tried to bite my head off. I'd seen one before, when Nico-san and the others saved me from the Spandex Brigade's stupidity. Nico-san made it look so easy I thought I could fight it, so I did. I managed to wear it down to where it was barely holding on, then it started leaking this evil chakra from all over its body and it formed some kind of chakra cloak around itself. The stuff was so potent that I could frickin' see it. It was this bright red and it practically made my eyes burn just by looking at it. It looked like it was melting through my rock clones just by standing near them." Hiruzen, who'd been listening intently so far, practically bit through the end of his pipe as his body stiffened in shock, and he could feel the 3 Umbu guard hiding in the room doing the same. Chakra often took on properties based on how it was used and who was using it. Depraved and evil men, those who gloried in the darker aspects of humanity, sometimes gave off chakra that felt unpleasant to normal people if they were powerful enough. However, the only chakra Hiruzen had ever heard of that had the same kind of potency that Naruto had just described was that of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. The red color simply adds further confirmation. There's no doubt that the creature Naruto had encountered possessed some of the Kyuubi's chakra. Sarutobi's mind whirled at lightning speeds as he tried to make sense of what he was hearing. How? A chakra mutant, of course. The fox was radiating chakra at an unimaginable scale when it attacked 12 years ago. There were pockets of residual chakra covering the entire village. I had several dedicated sealing squads searching for months after the day of the Kyuubi in hopes of finding and clearing it out before it could lead to something like this. Some must have nestled deep within the training grounds. The chakra already rampant there would have concealed it if it was small enough. Then it would have simply lain dormant there, festering and growing until it found a strong enough host to infect. "I see," the Hokage said aloud, already making plans to have an Umbu squad burn training ground 13 to the ground if they had to in order to find and neutralize the beast before it could grow into something truly dangerous. "And how did you escape from it?" "I didn't," Naruto stated simply. "I had my rock and shadow clones swarm the thing until we finally managed to kill it." Hearing this, Sarutobi couldn't help but let out a small breath of relief. Even if Nico had easily managed to kill a similar creature, something he was going to be sure she was properly rewarded for, it was quite something else for an academy student to kill something that possessed the chakra of one of the 9 Biju. As a chakra mutation, it had likely possessed an instinctive connection to the corrosive chakra that no human, even a true Jinchuriki, could ever possess. On the other hand, it had also been merely an animal, a creature incapable of planning or truly strategizing, being locked only in the present. Any animalistic cunning the beast had possessed before would likely have been completely subsumed by the raging malevolence that seemed to infuse the Kyuubi's chakra, reducing it to rabid frenzy. Of course, that still meant that Naruto had been able to take down a frothing berserker infused with a sliver of power from one of the 9 Biju. That was something he'd be impressed by from a seasoned genin, let alone an academy student. "That was well done, Naruto-kun," he praised warmly. "Yeah, that isn't the end of it," Naruto added nervously, reaching up to scratch at the back of his head. A tic he'd inherited from his mother, Hiruzen noted, whenever she was nervous or embarrassed. "I stayed back after I noticed how it was melting through my rock clones, but when the squirrel died, that same chakra leapt from it to me and just seemed to flow into me." Eyes widening, Sarutobi locked eyes with his surrogate grandson as the boy looked at him imploringly. "Gigi, what the heck am I? That chakra wasn't human." Closing his eyes painfully, Sarutobi brought a hand up to cover his eyes as he leaned back in his chair. There was no way out of this. He had to tell Naruto the truth. He briefly contemplated lying, but quickly shook the idea off. While he was certain he'd come up with something believable that would placate the boy, he also knew that the consequences of such a lie, when Naruto eventually learned the truth of his condition, could be disastrous. Also, ever since Naruto had started to develop his unusual abilities, he had also started to display a level of shrewdness that few would have expected from him before. It would make creating a suitable falsehood and maintaining it for any extended period far more difficult. No, he had always intended to tell the boy the truth after he graduated from the academy. Lying now would only delay an inevitable discussion and make it that much more painful. "I was hoping that I would be able to postpone this talk until you officially became a shinobi, Naruto-kun." Hiruzen spoke softly, his voice carrying a feeling of tired resignation. Words once spoken cannot be taken back, and the truth can be a terrible burden to bear. Are you prepared for what I am about to tell you? Even so, yes. Naruto nodded firmly. Sarutobi opened his eyes and gazed somberly at him for a moment. Very well, Naruto's perspective. Unfortunately, there are only so many secrets I can reveal to you at this time. His Jiji started out tiredly. What do you mean? Naruto cocked his head to the side in confusion. The part that you asked about is an S-rank secret. The Hokage explained as he sat forward slightly. The only reason that I am able to disclose this information to you is because it pertains directly to your body and life, and even then I am skirting the edge since you have not officially joined the shinobi rosters yet. There are, however, SS and SSS rank secrets to do with you that I legally cannot reveal to you until you reach the rank of Jonin, or Special Jonin at the very least. It is not a matter of whether I want to or not, but that I cannot. That stopped Naruto's incipient protest cold before he could finish thinking about it. S-class secrets were the kind couriers burned before letting an enemy get their hands on them. SS-class secrets were the kind that battlefields worth of ninja were sacrificed without hesitation to protect. SSS-class secrets were the kind that started or stopped wars based on who knew them. That his Jiji was even telling him about the existence of any secrets of that rank to do with him was an immense sign of trust on his surrogate grandfather's part. One that made Naruto feel all warm and fuzzy inside about his Jiji. I understand. The blonde orphan nodded seriously. After peering at him for a moment, Sarutobi nodded and continued. Now then, to start off with, I am certain you have guessed the source of this chakra. Am I correct? Naruto looked sheepish. Kinda. It's the chakra of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, isn't it? Correct. The old man nodded again. Your story starts 12 years ago, on your day of birth, which was also the day that the Kyuubi attacked Konoha. In the history books, the ones in Konoha for the younger generation anyway, it is claimed that the Yondaime sacrificed his life in order to use a kinjutsu that managed to kill the beast. This is plainly a lie. Why couldn't he kill it? Naruto asked curiously. The Kyuubi is not a creature of flesh and blood, Naruto-kun. It is an entity formed purely of chakra given thought and condensed to a point that it take on solid form. The Hokage explained. It is possible to disperse their bodies, though it is by no means an easy feat, and even that does not truly kill them. Their consciousness is linked wholly with their chakra and, given time, that consciousness will draw their chakra back together until it can return to a physical form. It is a process that can take years, or even decades, but eventually they will reform and you are back at square one. But, it only showed up 12 years ago, how do you know all this? Was what Naruto needed to puzzle out. Sarutobi folded his hands in front of him as he answered. There are more chakra entities out there than the Kyuubi, Naruto-kun. The 9 most well-known are called the Biju. The Shodaime Hokage used his Mokuton, wood-style, Kekii Genkai to subdue and capture every one of them, bar the 9 tails, and established a sort of power balance between the fledgling villages by gifting the Biju to them. The Biju have tails ranging from 1 tail through to 9 and each take on a different animal appearance. They are the 1-tailed tanuki, the 2-tailed monster cat, the 3-tailed giant tortoise, the 4-tailed giant ape, the 5-tailed dolphin horse, the 6-tailed slug, the 7-tailed giant beetle, the 8-tailed giant ox, and of course, the 9-tailed fox. Are they all as powerful as everyone says the fox is? Naruto asked. Generally, the Biju are rated based on the number of tails they possess. The larger the number of tails, the stronger the beast. Still, it would be like comparing a 10-ton elephant to an 11-ton elephant. Both are still capable of squishing a man like a bug. More than that, each possess their own unique abilities that makes fighting them on their own grounds suicidal for anyone, even cage-level shinobi. Hiruzen answered. The 1-tail, for example, has long held the ability to fuse its chakra body with sand and resided in Kaze on Kuni's vast desert before Shodaime-sama captured it. In that desolate expanse of sand, the 1-tail is far more powerful than it would be elsewhere, and proved a serious obstacle for Shodaime-sama to capture. I was still just a child at the time, but I was taken along to witness the battle. I knew then, just as I know now, that had it been anyone else, even the Nidaime, they would not have emerged victorious against the 1-tail. The sheer awe in the old man's voice when he spoke of that battle made Naruto gulp. He couldn't begin to comprehend the scale of the battle his Jiji had witnessed. After everything that the Sandaime had seen and done in his life, for him to still consider that battle one of the greatest he had ever seen was amazing. After pausing for a moment to let what he had said so far sink in, the Hokage continued in a somber voice. Using Fuinjutsu, it is possible to seal one of the Biju inside of a person, allowing them to draw upon the chakra of the sealed beast. A human to whom this had been done to is known as a Jinchuriki, literally meaning the power of human sacrifice in an old tongue. That, Naruto-kun, is what you are, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. As it is impossible to slay a Biju permanently, sealing it away was the only choice left to the Yondaime. Naruto swallowed as he tried to sort through everything he'd just learned. After a moment, he had to ask another question. But, why me? Why seal it into me? Sarutobi's eyes softened. Not just anyone can become a Jinchuriki, Naruto-kun. It is very, very difficult to find someone to seal a tailed beast into. I do not know if you are aware of this, but you are one of the last living members of the Uzumaki clan. All members of your clan possess a unique physiology that makes you near-perfect hosts for a Biju's powerful chakra. Aside from that, the reason you in particular were chosen is rather simple. Normally sealing one of the Biju takes a great deal of time, preparation, and an immense amount of chakra. The Yondaime had very little of all three by the time he was able to start the sealing process. While the Kinjutsu the Yondaime used took care of most of the time restraints and some of the chakra, at the cost of his own life, there was still much more that was needed. The main reason for the extensive preparation and chakra cost is to reinforce the chakra coils of the prospective host, otherwise the Biju's potent chakra would shatter them, killing the host before the process is finished and merely dispersing the beast's chakra. The chakra coils of a newborn baby, however, are undeveloped and thus far more malleable. As you were the only newborn in the village, you were the only possible candidate. The only one the Yondaime could trust to seal the fox in and save the village. Those were some very good reasons. What about my parents? Naruto asked, hoping to find something about them. They both fell to the attacks of the Kyuubi. Sarutobi said gently. But I know that they believed in you just as much as the Yondaime did, Naruto-kun. Just as much as I believe in you, Jiji. Naruto fought back the tears. Is this why everyone's so mean to me? Because of the fox. The old Hokage slumped tiredly back into his seat. The Yondaime's last wish was that you would be known as a hero, Naruto-kun. That by having the fox sealed within you, you were acting as the shield of this village day by day. Unfortunately, the Yondaime believed in the villagers. Too much so, I am sad to say. All of the deaths, all of the destruction, you were seized upon as a scapegoat, Naruto-kun. Some believed you to be merely the reincarnation of the fox itself. He scoffed. Idiocy. Others thought it had possessed you, which is equally ridiculous. Why? When constructing a seal to contain a Biju within a human, one of the first things done if you aren't stupid is to create a barrier between the souls and minds of the Biju and Jinchuriki, to prevent any kind of contamination or possession from happening. The Sandaime explained. Jiraiya of the Sunin and I have checked your seal very, very thoroughly, and not only is it locked tight, the mental safeguards are well beyond what you would expect for even a Jinchuriki's seal. It would be more likely for you to spontaneously develop a Kekii Genkai than for the fox to possess you. This made Naruto's sweat drop for a moment as you could, if you tilted your head and squinted somewhat, call the gamer a bloodline ability of sorts, although he had no clue if it was hereditary or not. Anyway, as the villagers, and other factors, were becoming ardent regarding you, I made an S-class law, forbidding anyone from telling anyone about your status as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki who did not already know. Sarutobi sighed. I had hoped that by doing so, you could grow up as normally as possible. Sadly, it seems that the villagers merely made their children inherit their dislike of you, and the adults harass you. For not knowing of this for all this time, I can only apologize profoundly, Naruto-kun. With that, the Hokage bowed his head in remorse towards Naruto, who could only stare in wide-eyed shock. Jiji, you tried. Naruto said once he managed to recover his equilibrium. It isn't your fault that the villagers violated Yondaime-sama's wishes. It's their fault. So please stop bowing, it's weird to see you do that. Chuckling at that, Sarutobi straightened up. Thank you for your understanding. Still, I am sorry for what you have endured until now. It isn't warranted, nor is it fair. I give you my word that any further interference from the civilian villagers will be curtailed severely, if not outright suppressed. The steely look of determination in the old shinobi's eyes made Naruto actually feel a little sorry for any civilian who was stupid enough to come at him. So, what does being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi do for me? Naruto asked after a moment. As it has been dwelling within you almost since you were born, your chakra coils are vastly larger than normal. I'd estimate that by now the chakra reserves you can access now are low Jonin level at the very least. Sarutobi said with a nod at the boy's question. Reserves I can access. Naruto tilted his head to one side in confusion. Yes. Humans have a lot of chakra, even those without active coils. The professor explained. What we refer to as a person's chakra pool is the amount of chakra, that is the combination of mental and physical energy, which someone can safely draw upon without causing harm to themselves. That is the reserves I was speaking of earlier. If you really push yourself, you can access more chakra, but it would be drawn from the mental and physical energy that sustains your body, which would cause you harm. Severe cases of this are referred to as negative chakra and almost always result in the person in question retiring as an active shinobi. In your case however, you likely have so much chakra that you don't have to worry about that unless you were to use multiple S-rank jutsu in quick succession. However, possessing too much chakra without the ability to manipulate it fully is just as dangerous. The sheer amount of chakra within your body could have detrimental effects if you attempt to manipulate it all at once. So your mind and body instinctively places a limit on what you can and cannot use. With practice and work on your chakra control, that limit will slowly but surely rise until you can use all of the chakra that you have without any worries of burning yourself out. Wow, that actually made sense. His chakra points represented the chakra he could safely access without burning himself out, and they rose because he had a greater control over chakra and ability to withstand the pressure of the chakra. Once you have some seasoning as a genin, I'll have Jiraiya-kun come and have another look at your seal and perhaps teach you a method of harnessing the chakra of the Kyuubi. Sarutobi continued. Aside from myself, Jiraiya-kun has the most knowledge about the seal holding the Kyuubi, and he has the additional advantage of being an Funjutsu Grand Master, whereas I am a mere intermediate master. I'm gonna be trained by a Sunin. Naruto's eyes nearly bulged out of his head. Even he'd heard of the Grade 3 ninja, the Sandame's own students. Should you pass the graduation exam? Yes. The old man had to chuckle at the childlike awe that the boy showed at that revelation. Now, just to give you advance warning, no one is permitted to inform others of your status as the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi with 3 exceptions, me, as the one who wrote the law, the sitting Hokage, which just so happens to be me at the moment, and the person whom the law is about, you, in other words, Naruto-kun. I will caution you to be careful who you tell, as it should not be bandied around carelessly. If other villages discovered your identity, they would attempt to kidnap you and extract the Kyuubi to use for their own ends, which would kill you. The orphan gulped. Understood, Jiji. The Hokage nodded approvingly. Now that the Kyuubi business is done, there is something I was hoping to ask you about Naruto-kun. A member of Umbu spotted you using some strange ability to absorb a scroll while in town. Can I ask what it is that you did? Naruto froze. Hell, he had not expected Umbu to be lurking around. Although, now that he knew of his status as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, it made sense for him to be shadowed outside of his apartment or the academy, especially since the Spandex Brigade incident. The familiar sight of the world going grey and a box popping up in front of him was almost welcome. Critical choice. At this time, you are left with 2 options, either attempt to bluff the Hokage or come clean about the gamer with him. Your chances of bluffing him are almost non-existent. Be warned that your choice here will affect your relationship with the Hokage. Choice 1, well Jiji, since you were honest with me. Choice 2, ahaha, what are you talking about Jiji? This, Naruto could tell, was an absolutely critical moment for him, as the headline of the box stated. He did not want to damage his relationship with his Jiji, but at the same time, he was leery of revealing his big secret. The blonde boy froze again. Then again, his Jiji had just revealed a big secret of the village to him when he could have simply bluffed it out or put him off until graduation in a couple of months. He had trusted Naruto, so the only right thing to do was to trust him in return. Slowly, Naruto reached out and pressed the first option, restarting time as he looked into his surrogate grandfather's eyes. Well Jiji, since you were honest with me, I should be honest with you Databia. He said with a nervous swallow. I woke up a couple of months ago to see something floating above my head. He then went on to give a brief explanation of his gamer power, what he could do with it, how it affected things around him and so on. As he went on, he saw that the Hokage was becoming more and more skeptical, so he pulled a scroll out of his inventory as proof. This made Sarutobi examine his arm and clothes for any kind of seal, and he was baffled when he found none. I can't figure it out. There was absolutely no sign of chakra being used there. The old man confessed in mild disbelief. He made a note to look up this Gaia theory in his personal library at some point. He vaguely recalled having heard of it before, but couldn't recall anything other than the name. I wish there was a way to show you everything, Naruto said in frustration. Then he blinked as a screen popped up in front of him. Invite Sarutobi Hiruzen to the party. YN. Oh, how suspiciously convenient. Hitting the correct button, he watched in amusement as his Jiji started at the sight of a box appearing in front of him. He'd been like that in the beginning. Party invitation. Uzumaki Naruto has invited you into his party. Accept. YN. Forming the hand sign, Sarutobi attempted a genjutsu dispel using both methods he knew of, but the box remained. With a flip of his wrist, a kunao appeared in the old man's hand and he applied a quick cut to the tip of one of his fingers, not even wincing at the sudden pain, but the box remained. I did the same thing. Naruto confided in him. Either we're both affected by a stupidly powerful genjutsu, or this is for real. Nodding, the Hokage gingerly pressed the Y key and then his jaw dropped as his own status box appeared. He quickly scanned it and looked at Naruto in disbelief. These are my physical and mental attributes. He asked for confirmation. Yup. Naruto did his best to keep his curiosity under control and not take a peek himself. Asking about or peeking at his Jiji's stat page would be like gathering information for an attack on him. If he wanted to show Naruto, then he would look, but not otherwise. What level does it say you are, Gigi? Level 99. Sarutobi replied after a moment, making Naruto gape at him. I knew you were strong, but... The orphan was amazed at his surrogate grandfather. Here was he at only LV 15. The difference between them was insane. I also have several special statuses that mostly involve my physical prowess taking something of a hit due to my advanced age. Sarutobi sighed. They can be mitigated, now that I know what to instruct the Mednin to look for and deal with, but sadly one cannot fight age indefinitely. He spent the next few minutes looking over his skills, his perks, and his flaws. The wonder in his eyes grew with every clarification he came across that proved Naruto had spoken the truth. Naruto-kun, this is a strange and wonderful power that you have been given. The old man said at last. It would also put a target the size of the Hokage mountain on you if anyone found out about it. I can name several organizations who would love nothing more than to somehow gain control of such a unique ability, never mind the possibility that it might be inheritable by your children. I can lay even odds on people attempting to kidnap you in order to gain the gamer for their village via your progeny. Yikes. Naruto muttered, blanching at the thought. His class had been given the talk just a few months ago and it had taken him ages to not explode into a full-body blush at the sight of a girl. Getting the gamer had really helped with that. As such, I am declaring this a SS rank secret, not to be written down and only I can tell others about it. Sarutobi stated. One possibility he did not tell Naruto about was the danger represented by Danzo and his NE operatives. He could just imagine the old warhawk salivating at the amount of strength that his men could obtain while under the effects of the gamer. No, he was not going to permit that to happen to either his home or his surrogate grandson. Once you graduate, your Jonin-sensei will be informed of the gamer's existence, but no one else aside from in a life-or-death situation. The Hokage continued sternly. I say this as the Sandaime Hokage and order it thus. Am I understood, Naruto-kun? Hi, Hokage-sama. Naruto responded automatically. This was the first time his Jiji had ordered him as the military dictator of the village and boy, was the old man intimidating? You have been affected by Sarutobi Hiruzen's aura of command skill? The two blinked at the pop-up and shook their heads at the range and depth that the gamer seemed to deal in. Naruto checked the skill and discovered it was a skill unlocked when Sarutobi had reached a leadership stat of 50. It made the user's subordinates more likely to follow orders, and faster, as well as being able to enforce obedience on neutral, allied or friendly characters within line of sight with LD of less than the bearer's own. Broken as hell, Naruto muttered. Just so, Sarutobi said bemusedly in agreement. After a moment, the blonde boy looked at the Hokage. Gigi, I can see that having a biju is kind like a weapon, do the ninja see me like that? Swiftly shifting mental gears at the change in subject, Sarutobi sighed. The divide in the ninja forces is pronounced. The civilian-born members generally dislike you due to how they perceive you as the Kyuubi, although there are exceptions. The ninja clansmen and clanswomen that join the ninja forces have a better understanding of Funjutsu and the history of Jinchuriki in their clan's own library, so they are at least neutral to you. The increased knowledge of the basic rules of Funjutsu is where most of that understanding comes from, as only old and powerful clans, such as the Hyuga, have any records of Jinchuriki outside of the official Konoha records. Why, I would have thought that it was pretty much an open secret since Shodaime-sama handed the biju out like party favors. Naruto pointed out. Suppressing a snort of amusement at the comparison, the Sandaime shook his head. All clans have their specialties, Naruto-kun. Taijutsu, ninjutsu, genjutsu, out of all of them, a specialty in Funjutsu is rarer than you might think, and most clans rarely extend interest to subjects outside of those specialties. More than that, the policy for the sitting Hokage over the past 100 years since the founding has been to encourage such a disinterest in Jinchuriki. Why, I am not at liberty to say. Naruto filed this under things that are suspicious in his mind. For making a correct deduction, you gain +1 WIS? Does this happen all the time? Sarutobi asked. More often than I'd like. Naruto grumbled. I could swear that it's mocking me sometimes. He glared at the place in front of him that boxes usually popped up in, almost daring the gamer to comment on that. It evidently chose not to. Did immaterial entities even have survival instincts? He wondered. Anyway, you have a few months left until graduation. Sarutobi continued. Do you know how strong you'll be at that point? Level-wise, I'm hoping to reach level 17. Naruto stated. I can't reach any higher than that because of a level cap as the gamer calls it. I have to class up from academy student to genin before I can raise my level higher. If or when I reach level 17, I'll probably focus on improving my stats and leveling up my jutsu as much as I can. What can you tell me about jutsu levels? The Hokage asked interestedly. Only what I've observed with my own jutsu. Naruto admitted with a slight shrug. Apparently jutsu, actually all skills in general, seem to have this level cap thing. a point past which they cannot become stronger. The self-made Bo, Tonto, and Kodaki styles that I made reached it at level 10. I'd call them about F rank, the kind that even a chakra-active civilian could use. I see, most of my E rank jutsu, except for multiple application jutsu such as the Academy 3, stopped at level 25 to 30, with D rank jutsu stopping at 40, C ranks at 50, B ranks at 75, A ranks at 80, and some of my S rank jutsu still haven't been maxed out and they're over 100. The old Hokage reported as he scanned his own skill sheet again. I also have a lot of these skills that aren't really jutsu, such as that aura of command ability from a moment ago. A lot of them are chakra control skills and the like. Okay, really jealous. Naruto scowled. I only just got basic chakra control a while back, and that was after doing the tree climbing exercise a whole bunch. I'll look over some of the exercises that I've acquired over the years, particularly for those that match your elemental affinities. Sarutobi promised. For your graduation present. You're a Fudan/Dodon primary/secondary, correct? Yup. I'm aiming to get Kadon as a tertiary affinity as well if I can swing it. Asuma-sensei showed me a couple of kick-ass jutsu that got me really excited about it. Naruto declared with a gleeful expression on his face. This made the old Hokage laugh. Gaining a tertiary chakra nature is a basic requirement for full Jonin rank, Naruto-kun. He chuckled. I admire your tenacity and ambition, but I would recommend only dabbling in Kadon jutsu for now. Focus on solidifying and mastering your natural chakra natures first. It will lead to acquiring your third affinity much faster than otherwise. Got it. The boy nodded determinedly. Well then, I think we've gone over everything. The Sandame said with a sigh. Once again, do not mention your gamer powers to anybody and be very careful to whom you mention your status as a Jinchuriki, as well as those around them. It is your choice to whom you tell that particular secret to so long as they are from Konoha, but I would advise that, for now, keeping your secret a secret is the best plan. Gotcha. Naruto nodded seriously. After discussing Mizuki's latest sabotage attempt, which Sarutobi was not happy about, the two parted, with the old Hokage sighing for what felt like the umpteenth time that day. Whatever this gamer power is, Naruto-kun will use it wisely as a shinobi. Sarutobi thought as he tapped a finger on the desk, his eyes absently darting across his reopened status screen, searching for some form of clue. What concerns me more is the origin of this strange power. It is unlike any form of Kekai Genkai I have ever heard of, and the fact that it does not seem fueled by chakra is terrifying in its own way. More so, such a power does not simply crop up every day, nor do I for one moment believe that Naruto's selection as the gamer is in any way random. Being the gamer is one thing, being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is another, but to be both at once. He could not help a shudder run across his body. Once Naruto could expand the scopes of his power more freely, Sarutobi had the feeling that the orphaned son of the Yondaime and the red-hot habanero would truly surpass those who came before him. Speaking of which, ending the lockdown on his office, the old Hokage snapped his fingers, causing an Umbu member with a dog mask to appear kneeling before his desk. Inform the surveillance teams that they are to step up the level of scrutiny Toji Mizuki is under from level 3 to level 2. He ordered coldly. Level 3 scrutiny from an Umbu team was basic observation of the subject's daily routine, as well as casual background checks of his friends and acquaintances. Level 2 was more invasive and less polite, involving the infiltration of his home and all of his scrolls, secret stashes and the like being searched, as well as thorough background checks on not only his friends and casual acquaintances, but his colleagues, family, and even his general neighborhood. If Mizuki proved to be any more suspicious, Sarutobi would escalate things to level 0, bypassing level 1 altogether, and have the man interrogated by Mitarashi Anko and Marino Ibiki. He was already guilty of weakening the strength of the village Jinchuriki, a Class A crime in itself. Hatred could make men do reckless, stupid things, but it could also make them become weak-minded as well, leading them to choose options they would not have before they were infected by pervasive hatred. Hi, Hokage-sama. Dog replied and vanished in a puff of chakra smoke. You had better hope that my Umbu do not find anything amiss with you beneath the surface, Mizuki. The Sandame muttered before returning to his paperwork. The Chunin had already been on thin ice for what Iruka-kun had reported back when Naruto had just gained the gamer, but now, one more misstep and the old Hokage would simply make the man disappear. In any terms of value, Naruto's safety and proper development was now worth far more than a single Chunin. With Naruto. Quest complete. Grab the fox by its tails, you have successfully confronted your surrogate grandfather and had the truth, or a large part of it at least, revealed to you. Quest rewards, plus 2,500 EXP, plus 5,000 Ryo. Special status changed to Kyuubi Jinchuriki, discovered perk perfect Jinchuriki host, reputation with Sarutobi Hiruzen maxed out, hidden quest, complete. You willingly revealed your status as the gamer to your village leader with only the gentlest of prodding. Hidden quest rewards, Bakahatsukage Bunshin no Jutsu Scroll, Greater Fujin Heiori. You have successfully maxed out your reputation with a character for the first time? You gain plus 5000 EXP. Wow, was all the boy could say to that. The EXP and Ryo were nice, but the rest was the real treat. The Perk Perfect Jinchuriki host basically stated exactly what his Jiji had told him, that he could have any of the Biju sealed within him without any negative effects. The Kyubi Jinchuriki special status was the one that added to his chakra so much with every level, and his heart swelled with pride as he saw that he and his Jiji had the maximum possible relationship. The 2 extra rewards for the hidden quest certainly sounded kick-ass too. Another part of the Greater Fujin set was useful, and the explosive shadow clone jutsu would be a good addition to his rapidly growing arsenal of techniques. He'd have to experiment with the jutsu to see exactly how good it was. As the boy set off to his apartment, he had a jaunty step to his walk. Things had gone far better than he would have thought today, and he couldn't be happier. You have moved more than half a mile from your party member. Do you wish to disband the party? YN. Will he remember everything I told and showed him? Naruto wondered. Yes. The boy twitched in surprise as his gamer ability actually answered his muttered question. That was weird. Just about as weird as it telling him about the Kyubi in what had to be the most irrelevant written tone that he had ever read. Shaking off the suspicion that something was going on with the gamer, Naruto hit the Y button and dissolved the party. He'd figure out what was up with his power later. For now, he had important business to do, lunch at Ichiraku's. Later, underground base, Konoha. Danzo, sitting behind a desk, listening as his agent reported what little he knew about the meeting that had occurred between the weapon and the old monkey. The defeat of his agents a few weeks ago, with one actually dying at the hands of the weapon, was a mixed bag of news for the old warhawk. On one hand, the weapon was now blooded and would find taking a life far easier from here on out. On the other hand though, he was fairly certain that Sarutobi had guessed that he was behind the attack. Plus, losing an agent, even if it wasn't one of his elite operatives, in what should have been a milk run, was not making him any happier. NE's rosters were small enough already without losing agents on easy missions. The fact that the old fool would likely now be working to further undermine his organization would make replacing his losses and gathering new raw materials even more difficult than it had been before. The meeting that had taken place earlier that day between the 2 people who had irked the Yami no Shinobi for the past 12 years was unusual. Oh, the 2 met with an irritating frequency, so the meeting in and of itself wasn't unusual, but the fact that Sarutobi had judged whatever it was they were going to talk about to be serious enough to activate Tobirama-sensei's secrecy and privacy seals was worthy of note. Even he couldn't bypass those seals without Sarutobi realizing he had done so. He'd made several attempts at finding a bypass and had some partial successes early on, but when both that fool Jiraiya and the soft-hearted brat Namikaze had gotten involved in updating them, his attempts had become utterly ineffective. Danzo may have loathed Jiraiya for a foolish wastrel and the Yondaime for his pacifistic tendencies, but not even he could deny their skills with art of Funjutsu far surpassed his own. Return to your post. The crippled man instructed the agent once he finished his report. Attempt to discover any paperwork that might give a hint as to the subject of their conversation. Hi, Danzo-sama. The man vanished as he spoke. Danzo leaned back in his seat and pondered the situation. He daren't risk riling up his old rival now that his most overt card had been played, at least not until the weapon became a genin and went out on a C-rank mission. At that point, he could have him tested by hired nukenin, using actual nukenin this time, to see if the death of his agent had been a sign of the weapon's strength or the influence of the Higurashi girl. She had been an unforeseen wrench in his plans, he had to admit. Monitoring a fairly new genin and her normal family, blacksmithing expertise, and former shinobi status aside, was not something he would have thought he would have to do. Evidently he should have kept a closer eye on them, as her presence had thrown his agents off enough to not stick to their script. The reports of her hurling what amounted to an entire armory's worth of weaponry as a result of what one had said had taken him a moment to believe. It was at times like this that the Warhawk could see why Sarutobi disliked his NE agents. They had all the imagination and creativity of a concussed lemming outside of combat. Not to mention being unable to sense the conversational landmine inherent in threatening to rape and kidnap a kunoichi, apparently. Still, they were far more useful in combat than other shinobi, in his opinion at least, and they could never become nukenin. Power and loyalty were the 2 main attributes that he cared for in shinobi. Too much of the former without enough of the latter was a recipe for disaster. The matter of the weapon decided for the moment, Danzo decided to head home for the day. He had a nice warm bath awaiting him there to soothe the aches of his battered and aged body. Age, he mused, was a royal pain.